Ladies and gentlemen, it being Monday, March 1st at 5:30, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting, as usual, will occur under Zoom video, phone, teleconference per the allowance under the Governor's Emergency Order number 12 that has waived the requirement of having a quorum of the board physically present for a public meeting. Okay, roll call. Add another person. Kathleen DeWolf,
Present.
Andy Fitch,
Present.
Francis Newton,
Present.
Eli Badger is here also. Why don't we move Mr. Collingswood up to the top spot?
No S. It's Collingwood.
Collingswood.
Collingswood is Dark Shadows.
Yes, Collingswood.
We're showing our age there. Dark Shadows, right? I always tell people who can't remember my first name to remember Marlon Perkins.
Yes.
Music of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. That shows you how old I am, right?
Oh, I remember him.
Yeah. Eli, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that. And thank
We're
you
just going to yell at you now.
Well, I'm here. So I wanted to give you an update. It's been a tough 2 weeks at Plymouth State. On the 15th, Monday the 15th, we saw a quite dramatic spike in positive cases among our students. We had been averaging at any point in time since the beginning of this semester, for the first few weeks, we've been averaging anywhere between 20 and 30 cases, active cases a week. And on Monday the 15th, we had 93 students that tested positive. And the next day we had about 41 students. So that caused us to look at what might be happening. So we went into remote mode, which meant that students, all of our in-person classes were now remote for a week. We'd originally made that decision, and there was no indoor dining, there was no student activities. Basically, everything was happening remote, with the idea that we would come back to in-person classes today. We have since delayed that until Wednesday. So I'll say that over the last 4 or 5 days, the trends are coming back to where we're very cautiously optimistic. So over the weekend, we had no new positives among students being tested. At our height in this outbreak, we had 161 positive cases. As of today, we have 93. So that number is coming down very quickly. We're doing another round of full campus testing today and tomorrow. So we'll see what the results of that are. If we keep seeing that, the numbers going down, we're planning to return from remote and begin in-person learning again and in-person activities with some restrictions in place starting on Wednesday, with the idea that if that continues through the week, we would open campus up as it had been when we started this semester, the Monday, the 8th of March. So of course, with that number of students, it caused us to fill up our quarantine and isolation space very quickly. So we did make the decision that we needed to house both positive students at the O'Connor Lodge in Plymouth and also in Ashland. And both of those locations were full until about Thursday of last week. Today, I have 14 students at the O'Connor Lodge and I believe 18 at the Quality Inn. We are moving back to the point where we'll be using the Quality Inn only for quarantine students. Hopefully that will happen over the next week as those students who were in there and tested positive come out of their 10-day quarantine. We have isolation, I'm sorry. We have also secured a third hotel in Tilton that as we begin to, if we begin to see more positives, that was where we will use it exclusively for positives and the O'Connor Lodge, and go back to the Quality Inn being exclusively for those who are close contacts for quarantine. Again, I would expect that to happen. Again, if we have a bigger spike, It may take a little longer than that, but I would expect us to be back to where we were in the next 7 days, be able to report back to you. I would hope by this time next week that the Quality Inn is back used only for quarantine students. So there had been some concerns, I know, about some cars in the parking lot across the street near the senior housing. There were people over last weekend, I believe it was, families who did come to drop some things off for their students, which they were allowed to do. Some of them were from out of state, so they simply drive up, they leave groceries or care packages at the front desk and they leave. But based on some of those concerns and that Eli and I talked about, I believe it was a week ago, I'm not sure, Eli, it seems
About that.
I have no track of time these days, right? But I know we had a conversation. So we have, since that conversation, we now have overnight security at the parking lots at the hotel to monitor who's coming in and out of the parking lots, both at the Econo Lodge and at the Quality Inn. And we're planning to continue that throughout the semester. So I'm happy to answer any questions and take any comments or anything.
Well,
Thank you for the information. I thought it was very informative. And just as we have discovered, everything's new. You know, we might,
yes.
you know, we learned from our, I wouldn't call them mistakes, but the plans didn't pan out quite as they look good on paper, didn't plan out in reality.
Yes.
The only question I have, when does semester end? Isn't it about May? You know, it seems like
Tomorrow would be wonderful, Kathleen, but it doesn't. So our semester ends, commencement is on May the 8th.
Yeah.
So the last day of classes or the last day of finals is Friday, the 7th of May.
so we're basically looking for 2 months that we still have to manage this.
Yes, yes. And my hope is, and again, and I guess it's important to know that, you know, when we made the decisions we made in the midst of this surge, we had plans in place, but obviously they worked, but we needed to do them very quickly. And we weren't anticipating this kind of a surge in a 2-day period. You know, we did have lots of conversations with Ben Chan and Beth Daly from the Department of Health. They kind of have given us their recommendations. They're the ones that recommended we stay remote for another day or two. In addition to that, we anticipate, you know, that as the Grafton County rate of infection is still very high, right? So we believe, based on what we're hearing from the CDC in the state, that Grafton County has begun to plateau and go down, but we really have no idea what the positivity rate is in the local community, right? We're the only ones testing, but I don't know that 2% of Plymouth isn't positive, right? Because nobody's testing them. So in some ways, we have to go by what we're seeing in our testing. We anticipate that as we get back to some warmer weather, students are able to be outside again. We're able to have activities outside. That that combined with hopefully the you know, the slowdown of the virus and the speed of the vaccination, that by April, we're going to be in a very different place a month from now. At least I hope we are. And the science tells us we have a good chance of that.
okay, Mr. Collingwood. Some of our listeners want a question answered.
Yeah,
What's the difference between isolation and quarantine?
of course. So quarantine, the way, and Eli, I knew none of this a year ago, right? It's hard to believe what we've learned in a year. The easiest way to remember is quarantine is somebody who might be sick. Isolation is somebody who is sick. So you go into quarantine if you have been exposed to someone that has tested positive for COVID-19. So, and you go into isolation if you have COVID-19. So isolation lasts for 10 days from the date you took your test. Quarantine lasts for 14 days, and that's based on the incubation period of the virus. So when a student tests positive, we have a rapid response team that talks to that student within hours of their positive tests, gets them into isolation, and then begins to do contact tracing of all of the people who had close contact with them. and I'm probably giving you more info than you want, but close contact is defined as 10 or more minutes together within 6 feet, masked or unmasked. So if you were in a class if the student's in a class
Mhm.
for an hour and they're all wearing their masks, the whole class doesn't get quarantined, because the reality is we're doing 5-6 feet apart in the classroom in most cases, that it's only going to be the people in front of you or behind you. If you happen to pass a student in the hallway, right, who tested positive and you said hi to them, they are not a close contact. So our webpage, actually, because we get this question a lot, we have a section on our website that's just about contact tracing and how quarantine and isolation works.
That was
So-
a good question. That was,
Yeah, so isolation is if you're positive for COVID. Quarantine is keeping you safe and quarantined until you might test positive because you had an exposure.
was that the only question that you had, Eli?
Yeah,
That was pertinent that Mr. Collingwood could answer?
that was the question. There are some people that have showed me the dictionary definition of quarantine and isolation. And they don't
I'm just giving you,
understand the difference.
what I just provided you is the public health definition of
Yeah.
quarantine and isolation.
Webster takes a different view.
Yes, I understand that, yes.
Do you have any
Mr.
data
Collins.
on those who are quarantined, end up testing positive?
It tends to be, I think last semester it tended to be very few. This semester, it's about 10% who test positive after they've been in quarantine, and we do test them, right? So we, if you're in quarantine, we bring testing and we test them. And right now, about 10% of the students who are in quarantine test positive. Now, what's interesting is, and the state's seeing the same change, right? But what's really interesting is that right now, back in the fall, the average person in New Hampshire, and our students as well, who tested positive had 8 to 10 close contacts. This spring, in the wintertime right now, that's dropped to about 3 to 4, right? That's because people aren't out and about as much because of the winter weather. So in many cases, last semester, a positive student that we had at Plymouth State might end up with 10 students who have to quarantine because of their social structure, right? What we're seeing now is that's come down to about half. So it's usually between 3 and 4 students who have to quarantine based on being positive.
And what interaction do the students in quarantine have with each other at the Quality
The
Inn?
students in quarantine, they can have so we do have, so for instance, if in isolation, isolated people who have COVID can socialize with other people that have COVID, right? You're not going to get COVID again, right? So isolation students have the ability to have some interaction as they're together in isolation. In quarantine, we do have some students who are allowed to quarantine together. So for instance, if 3 students, and this is very complicated, I know, but if 3 students had the same exposure to the positive case, so they're 3 best friends, they live in the same dorm, they live in the same room together, they're allowed to quarantine together in a room at the Quality Inn or wherever they might be doing that. But other than that, there is no intermingling among the students who have quarantine, who are in quarantine.
And how do you enforce that?
We have 24-hour staff at the hotel. This semester, we've done 2 things that I think have made a difference. This semester, we retained a local healthcare company called Summit Health, which check in with our students daily on symptom checks and via telemedicine. And the students all have pulse oximeters to take their oxygen levels and temperature. So they're checking in on them daily. Our staff, there are obviously cameras in the hotel, so we can see if a student's going from one room or the other. And then we also, one of the things that we did that I think is really great it's great for our students, I think it's good for the community. beginning last week, all of our meals at the Quality Inn and at the Econo Lodge are being provided by the Common Man. So we came to a partnership where our students get their 3 meals a day delivered from the Common Man to the hotels. It allows them to have a hot meal in the evening and as opposed to 3 cold meals, which is how we were doing it before. And in addition, it's giving the Common Man, I think, some really important business that they need, as all restaurants and caterers do. So we're pleased about that as well.
And what kind of testing are you using and what is the turnaround time?
Well, our turnaround time, we changed our testing laboratory. Last semester, we were using Quest labs. And part of the reason we changed was where our turnaround time was from 4 to 5 days in some cases, which makes no sense at all, right? So we do PCR tests, the nasal swabs, and we send them to the Broad laboratory at MIT, and we get those results back usually in about 18 hours. And then the other thing we added this semester is we are doing rapid testing for symptomatic students. So rapid testing, we use a Sophia Quidel machine. It's a PCR test, but it's only accurate if you have symptoms, right? It's only about 30% accurate if you're asymptomatic. But if a student has symptoms, they have a cold or they feel like they have the flu or a sore throat, they can come into health services, they get a rapid test, and that test immediately tells us if it's flu, strep throat, or COVID-19, which allows us to isolate or quarantine those students very quickly.
Good. Any other questions?
Mr. Collinwood, how are the students transported about from the campus down to the motel?
They are transported by university police in their police vehicles.
Okay, the reason I asked that question is I saw the bus down in Ashland today, and I was just curious if they were using that to.
I think, well, so if they are delivering quarantine students, it's all done by our university police. There are times when quarantine students, 3 of them can be on one of our shuttles masked, and we have plexiglass there, but the delivery of students all happens through University Police Department.
Thank you.
And up until last Thursday, you would have seen our shuttles on a regular basis because our shuttles were delivering the meals from our campus dining partners. One of the reasons we made the change, in addition to the students love Common Man food, is that the Common Man is now taking care of that meal delivery for us. So every day between 4 and 5, you'll now see a Common Man van in front of the Quality Inn delivering those meals. Well, I thank you for your time. I'm always happy to join anytime. And Eli, you have my number. So anytime you want to have a question, call me.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And thank you
Thank you.
for your kindness and patience as we all try to get through this, right? And make it to summer. Oh, gosh.
Patience is a virtue.
It is, but kindness is as well, and we need more of that. So, you know, I think we always just have to take a deep breath and say, how are we going to make this work? So I appreciate all of your willingness to let me kind of talk to you about what's going on, and your willingness to call me if there's an issue.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Collinwood.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Before we get to the approval of the minutes, I just want to say that we've have had a little office issue that Patsy is unavailable for the foreseeable future. She had an accident over the weekend and
Right now, she can't make it into the office.
can't come to the office.
Yeah.
Going on further with that, Jeanette Stewart will be back in on Thursday. Jeanette did get out a bundle of ballots.
What do you mean a bundle of ballots?
He had a whole box of ballots that needed to be,
Oh, they have been returned?
no, that are going
Oh.
out.
They haven't
go-
been mailed yet.
They have
Oh,
not been mailed yet.
oh, okay. Oh, ooh, all right.
Well, we just got them. Probably the last time she spoke, she said that the ballots were late coming. So they've gone out.
Maybe we should delve into this a little more nearer to the end of the meeting and get some of our other business done.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
get that out there so that those that are listening out there, the basically the tax collector, town clerk office is shut until Thursday.
Is there someone in the office tomorrow that can mail the ballots? Do we have to wait till Thursday for Jeanette to be in?
mm-hmm. Nobody has the authority, Fran. Only the town clerk and the deputy.
I
That's
have, I
Really
have,
unacceptable.
I
Yeah.
have sent Jeanette an email asking if all of the ballots went out, and she has not responded yet.
If she doesn't mail them till Thursday, people won't get them till Monday, and then there's no time to return them by mail.
Yep.
Understood.
That's why I suggested we wait to the end of the meeting, because there's a few issues that we probably need to discuss amongst ourselves
Okay,
on how we're gonna proceed.
let's get to approval of minutes.
Excellent minutes. Kudos to the minute taker.
Oh, we'll start with February 12th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as provided of February 12th, 2021.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
I haven't seen the minutes yet. My email is messed up, so I'm going to abstain on all of them.
Okay.
okay. Fran Newton,
aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Ely Badger says aye. Moving on, February 15th.
15th or 17th?
15th, I
Wait a minute.
have 15th here.
Oh, okay, they were out of order. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of February 15th, 2021.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Pass.
Fran Newton,
aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Ely Badger says aye. February 17th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of February 17th, 2021.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
I'll pass again.
Fran Newton,
aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Ely Badger, aye. February 22nd.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes of February 22nd, 2021.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
I'll pass.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger, aye. Moving on to new business. We got a request for another representative to PERLAC. And I believe Kathleen got notification that actually someone wanted to be on the PERLAC committee.
Yes, Mr. Tyson Morrow sent me an email. I did forward his application to Mr. Badger. He followed up with the email saying he sent it to Mrs. Tucker, the town clerk, but just to make sure that we were a receipt of his completed application. That's why I decided to send it on to the chairman of the select board. I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Morrow to PERLAC.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that with our thanks to Mr. Morrow.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Welcome, Mr. Morrill.
So the protocol, the procedure is that we send this on to DES. DES will make the appointment, and you should be getting, at that point, you get an official letter from DES with all the pertinent information, your term. And LRPC also will be notified of your appointment. Don't hesitate to contact me if you need any background information. You did send me an email. I've been working on my response to you because you threw a lot of stuff in there. So I will be returning. I'll answer those questions the best that I can.
Mr. Morrill, if you think her verbal explanations can be lessened, her written are even more detailed.
I wish I could mute him right now.
I appreciate it very much, and it's a bigger picture conversation that I kind of threw a few thoughts at to see Kathleen's thoughts. So
Yes, that was probably the, I'm gonna use my correct, use the right words. That was one of the more information-packed meetings that we've had in quite a while. There was quite a few different things that were brought up, and since the PEVMI covers such a long area, you probably noticed that each community is impacted different, and we each have a different point of view towards how it impacts our specific area. So at times it can be challenging to work through some of these issues. But that was, we had quite a couple of thought-provoking things that came to our attention. And as I told you, Ashland is fortunate we have steep slope ordinance in place. We have a PEMI overlay district in place. And I forgot to tell you, we have a wellhead protection ordinance in place. So 3 areas that directly affect Ashland and our proximity to the PEMI, the town has been forward thinking into putting these ordinances into place. So that puts us in a better position than some other communities, which I think you saw at that meeting, that some serious questions were posed. So.
definitely, I agree. Thank you. And if any of you folks here have any questions, after the fact or reach out separately, I'd be happy to answer them as well. So thank you.
And we can tap you for SLA information too.
I do have to tread that line close because
Mm-hmm. Totally different animal. Yeah.
exactly. So tomorrow night I have another, I'm a director of the Trappers Association, so I go on both ends of the spectrum. So it's interesting. So
It
outside
will
of
be-
this, it would be great.
Yes, this will be a new adventure for you that hopefully you gain, a positive outlook on it. So thank you very much. We've always had a person representing Ashland on PERLAC. At one point we did have 2 members. And especially it was quite active during the whole Northern Pass procedure. And I was on the Ashland Conservation Commission at that time. So like I said, we've always had membership, been involved in it. So thank you
Great.
very much. And you await your official letter from DES.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll stick on for a while, and I'm interested to hear how the rest of this plays out with that.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Really appreciate you stepping up to the plate.
yep. I'll
Thank
be in
you.
contact.
Great. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on. Trustees' concerns about some of the accounts.
Yes,
Ms.
hi.
Lau?
Hello. So I CC'd you, Eli, on the letter that I sent to
Yep.
Tom Donovan of the Attorney General's office, which you shared with the Board of Selectmen. Ashland has 10 trusts. Scribner, we took care of in 2020 by sending that off for a non-judicial court settlement, which was, I don't want to say that it cost the town nothing, but it did not incur additional legal expenses to do. So now we have 2 problems with 3 different trusts. The first trust is the Green Grove Cemetery Trust. And the thing about Green Grove is that according to Tom Donovan, and in fact, I got a reply to that letter at like 5:13 today. And he says, just regarding issue number 1, which is Green Grove. And he says, and I quote here, yes, ask the BOS to refer this to the town's attorney. So what needs to happen with Green Grove is that the Green Grove Cemetery Trust, and I've got my numbers behind me, but it seems like it has about 16,000 in it or something. Walter might know more about the money amounts, and Walter, when I get something wrong, please butt in. But anyway, the long and short of the Green Grove Cemetery is, as you know, Ashland voted to privatize the cemetery many, many years ago. And the trustees of the Green Grove Cemetery are not the trustees of the town cemeteries for the town of Ashland. They're a different board. And so this seems to have fallen in the crack that we trustees of the trust funds, who are trustees for town trust funds, have this trust, which were contained, and I was able to find the records of only 5 in it. I went and marched all through the cemetery back in June and took pictures and everything, but they are perpetual care monies. And anyway, the long and short of it is the trustees of the cemetery, the Ashland cemetery trustees, don't have purview over Green Grove. So we, as a board of trustees, said, well, why are we holding this? Because it's not a town, has no town purview. So we would like to send this to the to legal and do something. Tom Donovan, after looking at everything, Tom of the Attorney General's office, said that it would be very similar to what happened to Scribner, that it would be dissolved and transferred over to the Green Grove Cemetery trustees. And I have been in contact with Rusty Cross, and it does appear that the Green Grove Cemetery trustees are quite happy to receive these funds, which of course are perpetual care funds for their cemetery. So it just makes sense. It's a, I want to say, more of a housekeeping issue than anything else on this. So I'm asking you now for the the trustees of the trust funds if you at the BOS would send this matter to legal. I
Would
have,
it-
sorry?
Would it be more efficient if we direct Amanda as the chairman of trustees of the trust fund to contact the Mitchell Group herself and then keep us in the loop?
Well,
I think it ought to come from the BOS with Amanda CC to. keep
Yes,
it official,
okay.
to keep the official line of contact from the BOS.
Thank
But
you, Fran.
Amanda should be CC'd on all of this.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you.
okay, well, Kathleen, having said that, that's an excellent segue into the second issue that we have discovered with two other trusts. Green Grove Trust, as well as let me back up a little bit farther than this. As you may or may not know, we trustees have been in the process of both having to rename, or I shouldn't say rename, but put our names as trustees on all the trusts. And then we've also found that they've been housed at 4 or 5 different, 10 have been housed at 4 different investment groups, Wells Fargo, Capital Group, UBS, and Amerifund Pioneer. So anyway, we've got them in 4 different places ranging from Florida to Kansas City and Missouri. So we have tackled the last 3, which were which are currently at a Capital Group. It turns out Green Grove is one of them. The second is Ordway Cheney, and the third is the Addison Library Fund. Now, Ordway Cheney and Addison are for the benefit of the Ashland Library, which we talked to the library about last year, and they said, no, just keep them there. We're not interested in taking the funds at the time. And to be clear, there's not much money in them. By much, I mean like maybe $6,000 or something like that. I mean, more than is in my checking account, mind you, but not a 60,000. How's that? So at any rate, in going through this with Capital Group, it appears that Green Grove is good to go. We need to get our names. By our names, I mean like Walter and my name, or Walter, mine, and Lisa, depending on the election and when the time frame and all of this on, and then we can do the non-judicial court settlement like we did with Scribner, and it goes off to the Green Grove trustees and everybody's good. Ordway, Cheney, and Addison, however, are a bit of a bugaboo. And having said that, you may want to rethink how much I'm CC'd and how much I can directly contact the Mitchell Group. This is the answer to that Tom Donovan just sent me this evening at 5:38 p.m. regarding those 2 trusts, which I outlined in that letter to Tom Donovan, which I share with Eli, which you all have received on the Board of Selectmen. And his answer is, and I quote, "Ugh." This was the situation in the town of Northwood. The investment company required signature, medallion guarantee, and a raft of additional information. And if you would look at that letter, of course, that I sent to Tom Donovan, it had the attachment of everything that Capital Group wants, none of which I felt I could produce. It says that the town trustees of the trust funds, this has to do with Northwood, which had a similar issue with trusts that were not held correctly, not held in the name of the town correctly. And I can't do anything about it because I'm not listed as one of the trustees. In fact, one of the trustees is now deceased. This has been this way for a very long time. It said that the trustees of the trust funds in Northwood had to get the town administrator, which we don't have right now, and town council involved. You need to get it fixed, though. The town likely can get information to the company as to the town's legal status and the current trustee status as elected officials. So the bottom line is what if you did open up that attachment and look? This happened, I don't know. As I said in my letter, I suspect it happened. I think it happened probably about 10 or 12 years ago, is my guess, 12 plus years ago, that this was moved to UBS, these trusts, for whatever reason, wherever they were before. I mean, not UBS, they were moved from UBS to Amerigroup, to the Capital Group. And when this happened, and from the records I can find, It appears that it happened about 12 or 13 years ago. And when this happened, it was not registered correctly. And I have reached out to the former trustees, and they did not reply to my email asking if they had any knowledge. Their names are on it, you know, so I thought they would have some kind of knowledge, but they didn't reply to my email. So we are left now with these two trusts that, because they were not registered correctly 12 years ago or whenever this happened, we can't touch them. We can't touch them. You know, ain't nobody can touch this stuff. It's got, none of the names are right. It's not registered with the town correctly. And as you know, in the wonderful reply of Tom Donovan from the Attorney General's office, the technical term is UGG. But this needs to be fixed. So a medallion stamp guarantee is not the same as a what is certification, you know, where you go to somebody who's a
Notary.
It is not the same as a notary. It is actually costs money to have it done. We've had it done with the trust that we've moved out of Wells Fargo. They waived the fees for us because it was town, but this is where the bank, we have to go to Meredith Village Savings Bank, and Jill White puts a very special stamp on things that everybody signs and gives social security numbers and underwear size and last 3 residences and like, holy cow, what this takes. But it's possible to do. But I'm just saying that, as Kathleen said, you know, I don't know how much you guys want to be the conduit for the information between the Mitchell Group and the Board of Trustees on this, because this is going to be a much longer drawn out issue than Scribner ever was.
All we can do is facilitate that the board say, yes, we give the trustees of the trust fund permission to contact the Mitchell Group to go through the process of how to, Hermione's tale, how to work through and correct these, these irregularities that have occurred. That being said, I'm just going to throw this in here before I forget. Either the BOS investment policy and or the trustee of the trust fund policy, it should be amended that all accounts are reviewed 3 to 5 years, so things like this don't happen, to make sure we have the correct signatories on it, that everything is up to date, meets statute, because as Amanda's found, going back even 5 years, things become problematic. So I'm just putting that out there. It could go on the master list for the new town manager, that the BOS and probably working in concert with the trustees of the trust fund, we should make sure that all trusts are reviewed from 3 to 5 years. That being said, I think we need to facilitate this as quickly as possible, so the trustees of the trust fund can do the job they were elected to do.
Catherine has her hand up, and I'm just pointing at that because she's the money.
Finance officer.
Yeah.
Oh God, she does. It's tiny. Go ahead, Catherine.
I just wanted to briefly chime in that yes, that would be a good conduit, Kathleen, to address that issue. And by state statute, we do need to update our investment policy every year. It has been being done on the town side. It's something that needs to be done for 2021.
I think that came out in the town audit, that our policies, many of them were unsigned, undated. To me, they were just words on a paper. Something to put on the to-do list. We need to keep all this information up to date, so whoever is in office will not have to do the work that former board should have been taken care of. Yes, because our auditors pointed it out that we were lax in that area.
If it makes you feel any better, the trustees of the trust funds are current on their policy, which we did last, I think August, we got it
Mhm.
adopted and set aside. Also, we have adopted the policy that the board to meet, to present to the Board of Selectmen each quarter, a quarterly report on things. And I think our next one we did the last one, I think in December. So our next one is going to be coming forth in March, I think.
Later this month.
Later this month. There you go. That's right. Now we have a meeting later this month too. We thought we are now at a point where we trustees are able to meet quarterly. We were meeting monthly for about a year, but we met. Now we've kind of got things cleaned up enough, I guess is a good way of putting it, that we can meet quarterly like they do in all the other towns. And except of course this. So this, going back to the Green Grove issue, needs to go to legal counsel. And then of course the other two trusts that are not registered correctly. And we can't touch, you can't get into it. Nobody, I don't know how to, there's still some living trustees whose names are on it, but anyway, I can't touch them, neither can Walter. So at any rate, those would need to go, this issue would have to go before council as well and try to put together, what the capital group needs to prove who we are.
So what does the rest of the board think? How should we handle this? Send an email to the Mitchell Group informing them that they will be receiving information from the trustees of the trust fund. And could the Mitchell Group please walk them through the steps they need to take to correct these issues?
Works for me.
Anybody else? I'll make a motion then.
I'll second it.
I didn't say what the motion was, but thank you, Andy.
The motion was.
I assumed you made the motion about what you were talking about.
Thank you, which I hadn't quite articulated in the proper form yet. How should we, I do need help here. Fran, you're usually good at this.
I think the motion is to send a message to the Mitchell Group, copying in the trustees, informing the Mitchell Group that the trustees will be contacting them to resolve these particular issues with these two trusts.
Okay.
If I may butt in, I should have had this in my lap before I started speaking with you. So there's 4 trusts now that we're having problems. Green Grove, which is at UBS, we've changed the names. Walter and I can access it, and it needs to be done like Scribner to go to the Green Grove Cemetery.
So Amanda, we have a motion on the floor, so I would suggest once that motion passes, that then that's the information that you provide to the Mitchell Group and keep the BOS in the loop.
Hey, but there's three other trusts.
Oh, you might, as
There are
far as
more trusts.
the way I feel, they need to be taken care of as
It
a
doesn't matter.
altogether.
Okay, there were 4 that were problematic, 3 at American Group, and then
Yeah.
the Green Grove. Okay.
The only thing I'm going to ask Amanda is that you CC the Board of Selectmen as you do this, as you go through the process.
Of course. Mhm.
So motion was made and second. Mr.
I'll
Chairman,
second it again.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none. Kathleen DeWolf,
aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye.
And I want to take a minute to thank the trustees for all of the hard work that they've done. So many things have been cleaned up and brought to our attention that we either didn't know or anyway, a lot of gratitude goes out to all of the hard work that you and Walter and Dave have done over the last several months too.
We owe it to the public, and we owe it to anybody who may feel they would like to leave a trust in the name of the town of Ashland, that we know how, that their wishes will be fulfilled. They will be managed correctly according to the law. And hopefully issues like this will not occur in the future.
Thank you very much. I think that this does point out, what we on the Board of Trustees have been going through for the past 12 months or so, does also point out that you guys on the Board of Selectmen have an awful lot to do too. I mean, it's not about just writing checks in a checkbook to be a trustee, that things have gotten a little murky, and we're trying to clean this up. We can't even access some funds right now.
Yeah.
And that the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to thank you all for all that you're doing and have done. It's been very nice working with you. It's a lot more, as I'm preaching to the choir on this, as it's a lot more than just having a meeting, every week. There's some serious infrastructure issues that Ashland is looking at having to fix in the coming year. The electric department, for example. I've just seen a little piece of the pie with the trusts, the trusts, and working on that. You guys have a much bigger pie that you're dealing with some very serious issues, so anyway.
Thank you, Amanda.
We'll have a happy ending in the end, as I say.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A quick update on the town clock, community church.
Have we received
There
any,
is no update.
no update?
No. Pastor Ernie has
I would suggest then the vendor who sent us the contract with the estimate, that we respond to him, that at this time, we have no plans on moving forward with this project.
Okay.
And we'll have Mr. Badgers send that email.
I'll take care of it. Yes.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Me too.
The campground update. We've, Ann Barney has made Primex aware of the issue in the campground where the tree speared, the limb speared the trailer. It's being handled through the other insurance company at this time.
I feel anything that happens on town property, Primex, as our town insurer, should be informed, just for the record.
We absolutely. Staffing issues. We have staffing issues in the AED and at the town office.
Where should we start?
Where should we start? We can start with the town office.
Okay.
We have a billing problem, as everyone knows, in the electric department. It didn't happen overnight. When the electric department, we had when Linda Pack retired. That took any support staff for billing of the electric.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when Karen decided to leave us, that took out another trained person. The person that is doing this now, the billing for AED, had a little more than a week to take over.
Mhm.
So they actually, the utility side actually needs another person. There is continues to be a backlog of entering payments on the Able software.
I would suggest that we look for another, it's not full-time, three-quarter time utility clerk. Once it was voted on to have the town manager form of government, that meant all of that, even the utilities, whether they were enterprise fund or not, now came under the town of Ashland umbrella. One person cannot manage all of that paperwork. We did get Diane, who is, my understanding is that she helps Catherine and Ann, but I feel that the utilities need a dedicated utility clerk to manage all the billing. I hate the Able software, but right now, I guess we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but Ann sorely needs support.
And
I would not want to be in her position.
she gets support. One of the issues,
More dedicated, let's say dedicated support, that when the person walks in the office, that is her first business.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for. She sits down and she begins to work with the billing. If eventually we catch up with the billing, the software issues are ironed out, then we can have a different discussion on the use of office staff.
one of the issues that doesn't help is that the finance staff that we have, generally during the first 2 weeks of the month, there are needs the first 2 weeks with and doing the billing,
Mhm.
with billing, while the rest of the finance staff is working on payroll,
Weekly payroll, not bi-weekly.
weekly payroll,
Yep.
and it's within the same 10 days.
Mhm. So how does the rest of the board feel about another staff member to be part of the utility?
Catherine has her hand raised. I'd like to hear what
Yes,
she has to
Catherine.
say.
How do you see the hand raised?
It,
There's a little logo in the
there's a
corner.
little logo that
Okay.
is there, a little emoticon.
I see. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Well, the only other thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't mean to interrupt, I just wanted to bring up, this is a way we can address one of our audit findings, which was we need to have segregation of duties between cash collections of utility payments and billing of utility bills. We shouldn't have one person do everything. Another thing our department is trying to establish and work on, which has been a challenge, is having cross training. And, Ann needs to be able to take a vacation, or, God forbid something else were to happen. We need to make sure we have cross training for all of our positions in town. So I just wanted to bring that up. This is an avenue that we could use to address that finding.
I agree with Kathleen. I think we need another individual, and if it were me, I'd work with Catherine and the folks in the office to figure out exactly what this job description should be and to meet the needs of everybody. But clearly we're lacking staff and we need help right away.
I mean, it doesn't take much to understand when you go to 3 to 1, 3 staff members to 1, not one person can do it, where it took 3 people to do it before, or at least 1.5 or 2.5 or whatever.
No, and Anne wasn't working on electric before, so
No,
she's
she
gotta
was
learn a
not.
whole new software. So,
Yeah.
the thing is fraught with issues, and
You're correct, because water and sewer had totally different software than the electric department did. Good point, Fran.
So is it the consensus of the board that we work with Catherine and advertise for a part-time person? Now, Catherine also has in her back pocket a few of the CVs of other people who have been interviewed for office jobs at the town office.
she mentioned that before, which is why I think it's incumbent upon us to work with Catherine ASAP
Yeah.
and bring some people in to interview.
Out of her busy day, that maybe she can sneak in a few phone calls or an email to see if any of those former applicants may have an interest. And that could be our first way to go, but I think we should post it at the same time.
Well, absolutely.
Of course, that was always the job of the town manager to do postings, which now falls into our lap. I have to admit, I haven't been involved in posting for a job. Not quite sure how the corner office handled that stuff.
It can be worked out.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Badger.
I think we also will need to determine, I know I heard half part-time, I heard 3/4 time. I think that's a hugely important piece of it is how, is this gonna be full-time? Is it gonna be part-time? Yeah, I have suggestions for either way of how it could be handled, but I think that if it were to be less than full-time, we would have to consider how many working business days were open in the office.
Yeah, that was brought up, that maybe we should adjust how that is managed at the office. Maybe payments will be taken Tuesdays and Thursdays, something like that. And the other days, people will put it in the Dropbox, send it through the mail, which allows the utility staff to clerical staff to not be interrupted by having to get up and go to the window to wait on people. Which, as anybody that's ever had a desk job like that, when you're busy trying to do your job and you're interrupted and you have to then switch on to a different mode, it does cut down on the progress that you're doing. So I think that's something worth considering, that people will have to understand that the person would be available at the window to take payments on a certain day, maybe during a certain time. But I think that's probably going to be part of whoever gets hired, how they decide they want to manage their time.
Well, it's going to be how we want them to manage their time.
Well, that's what it is. This is a team. This has to be done as a team approach.
Catherine, what do you think we need? Do you think we need part-time or somebody full-time?
I think if we're gonna stay open 5 days a week, then it would have to be full-time, because we have 5 days of phone calls, we have 5 days of customers coming in. It's already an issue that we have to all manage our current full-time workload and then answer the counter, answer the phones, do all the tasks of the office. So I think it really is contingent on how many days of business we're going to be open for and how we're going to look at the job description. So what is our current utility clerk's job description going to change to? Is she going to be just doing billing? Is she going to be doing the cash receipt collections? And what do we want for this new person? So I think we have to figure out all those issues or what the board's pleasure is.
Okay, Craig has a comment or a question. Craig?
Yeah, I just want you guys, if we're planning on going to these AMI meters, that's going to alleviate a lot of, when we do pull the trigger on that and start doing it, don't forget that's going to take a lot of pressure off that person. And everything can be, behind the scenes, even the billing can be done automated and everything, with the website. I know you guys may remember Charlie was working on that. It can all be integrated into it won't take it all away, but.
Craig, I don't think that's going to be happening right now. And
No,
we
I'm
have,
just, the only thing I'm
down
talking
the road,
about is,
hopefully things would move along, but we have an
right,
election next week. We don't have a town manager. So we need to fill in take care of some of the issues that we have right now, but.
right. My
luckily-
point was hiring a full-time versus part-time. Because that.
Oh, okay,
full-time
I get
job,
what you're saying, yeah, but
I
you
just,
know, that
I
could
didn't get a chance to
it could
finish,
be a
that's all.
transition. That,
Right. You may not have a full-time job in a year from now, that's all. You may
oh
have
gosh,
to cut
Craig,
somebody's hours.
we gotta get through this week, never mind a year from
That's
now.
right. So just think about that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all I'm saying.
No, your point is well taken, Craig, and
Yeah,
I
hire
I do
somebody
think
in a
that
year, that's all.
that we can, if Catherine sees a way that we could limit the number of office hours we have to stay open and get by with somebody part-time to get us through until we get those AMI meters in. So it would be a mistake to hire a full-time person and then not need that person a year from now, but
yeah,
There's also the issue of an administrative assistant
Mm,
for the new town manager.
I was always perplexed why our former manager did not balk at having an administrative assistant.
Well, he had,
I think it would have reduced some of the burden he took upon himself or things that he didn't take care of in the timely manner that we expected of him. But I think that would have to wait until we hire a new town manager. So that they're going to have to work as a team. That would be my take on it.
okay. And so we've discussed a little bit about the town office and AED needs some linesmen.
After getting one of the late emails from Eversource with a level 4 emergency notice sent out when we have very little staff to attend to any down lines or poles or whatever. I can't emphasize to the public more that we have serious issues with our electric department. Our staff levels are not sustainable. We have strong competition from Eversource and the electric co-op. They pay their beginning linesmen and on up much more than what we offer. We've had issues with having a superintendent. I think most of us have agreed that we're looking for a working superintendent somebody who can be in the field, much like what Rusty Cross does with the water and sewer department, that work with the men, I guess you might want to call it boots on the ground. But we have serious issues, not only with the staffing, but the infrastructure itself. I think Andy has some thoughts on this. So if Andy, if you'd like to jump in.
Yeah, we've got to know where we're going pay-wise before we get into AED. We need to resolve what we're going to pay these people, and then we've got to get it out immediately. We are scheduled to talk about a potential hire later on tonight. I think we need to get that done, and then we can advertise for our help.
Yeah, we've had these presentations on the metering. I have a preference one over the other right now, but if we don't have the staff who can do the work, how can we move forward? We have to have staff to put this infrastructure, these upgrades to our infrastructure in place. And right now, we don't have the staff.
I will say one thing about what we do offer that other places, other companies don't, is that we have a very nice retirement system.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
And do I think that?
I bet that's never been offered in the package or even mentioned.
Well, I think
it's a benefit.
I think it should be mentioned as a benefit. I do think that we need to take a look at the pay rate of our area, because we're just not retaining people. And
well, any of us that have been on the board for a while realize this has been across the board. PD, other departments, they get the training and move on. Fire department. But that being said, if we're going to be competitive and try to recruit the best people to fulfill these positions and provide these services to the town, we're going to have competitive pay rates. And it I shouldn't even say might, it will mean that we will have to increase our rates. Our rates are not competitive.
well, they were artificially low.
Artificially low, yes. And we can't, that's not a valid talking point any longer. I believe Craig did an estimate that even if we increase the rates by a few cents, it would cover some of these increase in pay rates for people, and we still will be less than the co-op and Eversource. But right now, what we're paying, sure, I don't want to pay any more than I have to for electricity, but for heaven's sakes, it's so low, it's almost laughable.
Catherine wants to talk again. Catherine. Your hand's up, Catherine.
Sorry, I had to hit unmute. I just wanted to briefly touch on a couple of things that you've mentioned. As far as the pay rates go, Now, the superintendent position is not a union position. That's a department head, a salary type position. But I think it's important to keep in mind that we do have a union wage scale for all of the lineman, journeyman positions that we would have to obviously be in compliance with for any job postings. NHRS, yes, not all towns are contributing members of the New Hampshire retirement system. Just for anyone that's listening right now, employees are required to contribute 7%. The town for regular employees has to contribute 11.17% right now. That goes through June 30th of 2021. In July 1st, 2021, that rate goes up to, I think it's 14.16%. They're raising the employer portion. So you're talking over 20% of your annual salary is going into your pension plan. Now, in order to be eligible for the employer's portion of the pension, you have to become vested with the retirement system, which means you have to work for a NHRS contributing employer for either 10 years or be an active contributing member to the retirement system at the age of retirement. The only other thing was you briefly discussed the rate increase. We did have VEPSA look into doing a penny per kilowatt rate increase. That yielded about 146,000 for rounding purposes of additional revenue for the town if we were to do that increase. And I believe it was a 5% increase that our customers would seek. Correct me if I'm wrong with that, Craig, but I believe it was a 5% increase. I just wanted to add those couple notes.
Thank you, Catherine. The almost 3 years I've been on the board, we have never, I have never gotten that type of information provided. That's my take on it. Thank you very much. You brought up some very, very important points. And good job. Thank you. So where do we go from now? What
Well-
is our next step?
I would think that we need to advertise. Perhaps start with the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers. Check what's already in our files for people that had wanted to work for us, to reach out to see if they're still available to come in and talk again.
Good point. Yeah. We might have more information to offer them because we weren't part of the hiring or interview process. That was the town manager. That maybe some things were not offered that should have been, that might have enticed somebody to work for the town of Ashland.
Okay,
You know, the general public might not realize that with a town manager form of government, the town manager is the hiring and firing authority, not the Board of Selectmen. We can advise him. We supervise him and he works under our direction. But the town manager is the entity that interviews and hires and fires town employees.
okay. Well, I think we've laid out our staffing issues.
Okay.
Does anybody else have another comment about it? No, I don't. Yes, Catherine.
I would just say that, the first step is getting together job posting ads. So I think in order for me to be able to do that, I need really clear direction from the board as to what we're looking for, what we need. And that's the first step is getting that information together. And Kathleen, I agree with you regarding the town manager. In the absence of a town manager, the board is that body that approves hiring, firing, all that, just for anyone else that's listening to know. Since we don't have a town manager, we don't have an interim at this time, it is ultimately up to the board, which is why the board is discussing and making.
Yeah, we're in a very awkward transitional period right now.
I'm assuming, Craig, you've had conversations with the appropriate people and you could sort of assist in putting together a job description and identifying what it is we need.
Yeah, I'll get with Rob and have him write up a job description for us, and I'll give it to Catherine.
Thank you.
I would suggest that we plan a meeting, another meeting this week, and have a work session to discuss what we want, what we're looking for. Devote the meeting just to the job descriptions and how we're gonna, the language that's gonna be in the posting.
Do I hear any discussion about this?
I don't think we can wait that long. I think we need to get moving on this tonight. I think the office help is within Catherine's purview. I think if she and Eli sit down, they can come up with a pretty good idea of what they need. I think as fast as Craig can get us job descriptions, they need to go out. I don't think we need to meet to discuss it again. We've got to get these people in place.
I was
agree with you.
suggesting maybe Thursday because first of all, I'm not comfortable with giving carte blanche, that we need to at least.
It's not carte blanche. They're just putting out job descriptions. We're
Yeah.
not committing to anything. And I agree with Andy. We need to get this thing moving. And if we can put together job descriptions and postings, then we have time to analyze and talk about what it is we need.
So what are you saying, that they do this and post it?
We figure what I feel that we should do is create the job description, create the posting, put them out, advertise,
Mhm.
get how many ever people are willing to fill out an application, and then start bringing them in for
Yep.
at least the majority of the board to interview them.
Now, they can send
Along
us
with
the
the-
job descriptions, and
along-
if you want to make a comment on it, I don't think we need to meet and hash it out. We've got
No,
some experts here, resident experts, who have a better handle on what it is we need and can put together these job descriptions. And if they want to send them to us for comment, fine. But I agree with Andy. We gotta get this thing moving.
Well, look, this is the purpose of me even throwing things like that out there. So everybody has a chance with input. I will go with what the majority wants. I will, if they want to send us an email and ask us is
Craig,
this
yes,
okay? And we respond, then it's a go.
Craig, your hand's up again.
Yeah, I mean, we have job descriptions. We've advertised before. I'll send it out. I'm sure somebody can find it. I'll send it to Rob. What we really need is a certified or a qualified linesman.
Mhm.
We can't do with anything less than that because we already have unqualified linesmen, and we really need qualified linesmen. So it's not going to be, I mean, that's what we need. I mean,
Okay,
there's
so
not much discussion on it.
we do have a template because we've advertised before. who's gonna post it? Who's gonna be in charge of sending that out to,
Between Catherine and I,
okay,
we can get it out.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else on this topic? Moving on. I had planned to talking about the septic receiving rates tonight. The problem I've had today and since Saturday is that my town email has not functioned properly. So I was not able to send you a spreadsheet that I started working on for some input. A couple of the other things that I sent out didn't actually go out, but that's been taken care of. I did get it out to Rusty this afternoon for his input. And I think maybe at our next March meeting, we should discuss when you have all the paperwork in front of you, we should discuss rates. That'd be our sole topic.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eli. You have stepped up to the plate.
Well, okay.
And also Craig. Craig has gone beyond.
Craig, I've got to admit that Craig has done a pretty good job.
Oh, I think that's a compliment.
I don't want
Thank
it to get a very swelled head.
No. Thank you, Craig.
Craig, while you're here, next Tuesday, of course, we have a little gathering at the gym. Is everything on your end set up?
Yeah, I think so. We know what we gotta do. We'll set it up like always, and I think it'll be fine. Shouldn't be any different than it was last year. So I think we're gonna be good.
Okay.
Craig, are you setting up the spa facilities for the outside?
Yeah, I thought we'd put that same setup. I mean, it'll be a little chilly, but we'll put it up, and hopefully nobody. Well, maybe we can get a heater for you guys.
Let's just hope we don't have gale force winds.
Yes. And since Mr. Durak is still here.
My understanding is he has volunteered to man the outside voting box.
Has he thawed out from last time?
He's remaining mute right now.
Yeah, I volunteered to assist Walter on that outside station.
Okay. We'll delve into that a little bit
Okay.
later to see if we get any word from Patsy.
Yep, because yes, this will be a first in many ways that we won't have the town clerk available on voting day, and we all realize she has managed this for the last 20 some years. So it could be interesting how duties are delegated.
Okay. The next part of this is non-public. I am going to ask that Mr. Moore and Ms. Davis stay. I would like the rest of you to leave.
Eli, before we do that, I'd like to ask if we've okayed the boiler repairs that we got the estimates for. Has that been handled yet?
We have not okayed that. Thank you for bringing.
Oh, at the town office?
I think we have about $2,000 of,
Heating
Yeah.
issues that need to be rectified.
need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Of course, I think that right now, everything seems to be working well. But I don't know how much longer they will be working well.
Thank you, Andy. I forgot completely about that. That's why we have to keep a running list. It's very easy for things to fall through the cracks.
That's one of the things that bounced back to me today.
Yeah.
What is do we want to have our boiler fixed?
Yes.
What,
Yes,
shall we, is it all right if I write the company and say that we'd like it done?
yes,
Yes.
It'll come
Okay.
out of the building repair capital reserve,
Yeah.
building maintenance and repair capital reserve.
I shall do so.
Question, Eli.
Yes.
Has this, I know this is a problem that has existed for quite a while. Is the plumbing outfit our resident plumbers, so to speak, or were they just asked?
I think they were called in an emergency.
Because,
Uh,
because the local plumber was not available.
Okay,
Now, who is our
I
normal?
don't know,
well,
because that's another issue. Nothing is done proactively. Maintenance, that type, there's no ongoing maintenance. Nothing happens until it's broken.
well, not to beat up on this, but I mean, I was just curious if they were the company of record, so to speak, that has been doing our work in the past.
Don't know who you're referring to, but the local company, I was in the office at the time, they were not available. The people who have produced the work order were able to come and attend, get the heat back on in the office within a very short amount of time.
Okay, having said that, were other companies contacted?
You would have to ask Mr. Smith that.
Of course.
Mhm.
I will tell you that the local company does not do emergency service on weekends. I think we need to establish ourselves with somebody who does.
I know in the past, one of the frozen pipe issues did occur over the weekend. So of course, nobody was aware of it until Monday. This did occur during the week. And I just happened to come into the town office while, and got the information from Mr. Smith, and was in the office when the repairman came upstairs and spoke to Mr. Smith about what needed to be taken care of. And it was, it was serious. And like I said, no ongoing, we don't even have an ongoing, and that's the other thing, we ought to establish a relationship where the furnace has a yearly maintenance checkup. It's out of the way. Nobody goes down there until something doesn't work. But that being said, we should get it repaired, and that could be another standing order that we discuss, to have somebody on board who will do the yearly cleaning of the furnace, check all the valves, et cetera, et cetera.
Craig has his hand up.
Yes, Craig.
Excuse me. We use we get propane. I think you guys get propane at the town office from AmeriGas, and I
It's
just
not
have them
Amerigas.
come
Is
in
it Amerigas?
every year. Yeah, I mean, it's whoever delivers our propane, they do emergency service, and they come in and check my boiler on a yearly basis. And then if there's a problem, they come in on an emergency.
See, Craig, you have something in place. The town office does not. It
Well,
was.
I mean, we all use AmeriGas, so why not have them come in and do all this? That's easy. I mean, I could call somebody if you need me to. See, that's pretty, you know, if you guys need something done but I think it's a propane boiler down there, a burner.
Hey, Craig,
Yep.
since we have the Joint Loss Management Committee on the docket for this month, I think maybe adding this to the agenda for a thorough walkthrough would be town hall to look for any of this stuff that hasn't been serviced or whatever in the recent.
Excellent point, Catherine. Excellent point.
Yeah, we could do that.
That being said, do we keep our fingers crossed that nothing happens? Or do we make the repairs now and then set something to the place going forward? I believe that's the question that was posed.
I will find the invoices again. Well, I will find the company again that did it,
It was out of Bristol.
and I will email them out to you. Once I get to the office and find them.
Where we sent that email, or did I just happen to see it when I was in the office? I can't remember. It was $1,000 some dollars, and it was itemized.
Yeah, it was almost $2,000.
Yeah,
There were two, there were two bids, quotes. So,
but since I'm not quite sure exactly what has ever been discussed in the joint loss committee group, that sounds like the perfect item to discuss at their meeting.
So the Joint Loss Committee group is it's a combination of employees, supposed to be a combination of employees and management who address health and what's the word I'm looking for? Any like risk loss items such as, you know, oh, this wiring looks questionable, you know, something should be done about it, something like that, anything that could be hazardous in the workplace. And then they would come up with recommendations. And then management would need to decide on, you know, what to do with those recommendations and what needs to be looked at. It goes into, it's a requirement by Primex that we have to meet quarterly and provide minutes, which, you know, same thing like the Board of Selectmen, it needs to be available to employees, what the minutes contain. And there are certain things that Primex asks us to look into each year. And this past year, there was a number of new things, and it's on the docket for our policy review and update for 2021 for sure.
Thank you, Catherine. I knew what the purpose was. My remark was, I have never seen what has come out of those meetings. That was not shared, at least.
Now, COVID obviously has impacted the ability to meet in person. So it's something that, you know, as we're coming into almost the end of winter here, that we're saying, yeah, we're at almost at the end of the first quarter for 2021. So it's something that Craig and I have been talking about, and some other employees and members of the committee. I know it's something we discussed at the department head meeting last week.
Yep.
okay, is that all?
Alan's got his.
Alan?
Just a quick question. I'm not sure that anybody knows right off the top of their head, but I'd like to know how old this furnace is. I know it's not new, but just a question that goes along with repairs and whatever.
That ought to be fun.
Don't even know where that information may be.
Actually, what I noticed on the proposal was they were replacing valves that needed to go to quarter turn valves. Evidently, they're old gate valves and they're frozen up. And then it was just a routine cleaning for the burner itself.
Okay, we'll see if we can ascertain how old it is. At least to a century.
Out of sight, out of mind until it doesn't work. I've been down there once.
Okay. Moving on to a non-public session. So as I say, Ms. Loud, Ms. Rawlings, Mr. Morrell, Mrs. Badger, Chief, Mr. Rule, please leave our meeting. Do I hear a,
We still got two people who must have walked away.
yep, I will deal with,
Motion to go into non-public according to 91A, whatever.
3B.
Did you make the
I'll
motion?
second.
Maria? Okay, there you go.
We've come out of non-public session. No, we discussed aspects of hiring. No decision was made. I will now hear
I'll make a motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Oh, yeah.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.